Oh, welcome to the Sharpe. A couple of past 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and you're saying it's late again. I know when it's late. Remember, guys, I get one night per week that my caregiver allows me to stay up late. Doni has been good to me. She allows me to stay up late on Monday nights, so I'm able to stay up late tonight. So I'll stay up for a little bit later than normal before she gets mad at me and scolds me. So she'll be able to handle it. But tonight we are talking about something very interesting. And I think a lot of people have been talking about it, but I wanted to bring it up because I think it may matter. It might matter a lot this year. And that is, where are voters of color going? Hispanic voters, even Asian voters, Black voters. It's not the same as it was. There is a difference. There are people thinking differently, acting differently, some just checking out, but walking away from what they used to be the norm. I'll say that used to be the norm. And I have a star-studded panel with me this evening. I do. If the thing about this is, every single person has been with me on a show at least once this time. Often I have newbies, but everyone at least once. But I will bring on, in no particular order, he's a I would call him a independent journalist. That's what I'll call many things, but independent journalist, the man himself, Kit Cabello. How are you, sir?
It's great to be back on your show. Always happy to collaborate with New York City, even though we got the superior pizza. But thank you for the invite. And I have a lot of opinions about this recent update in regards towards where people are aligning and what is happening to the two-party neoliberal establishment system.
Oh, I like that. We're going to have some good answers for that one. And if I could, he's a political strategist, a former candidate, and also another U.S. Marine, the man himself, Julian Acciard. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm just excited to be here. As bad as the country is, the future looks bright. And it looks good. I think we're gonna do it.
There we go. And of course, returning champion, the woman who just recently moved. By the way, I just found that out. She's officially moved recently, not to New York to join me. She hasn't, but that's okay. Maybe one day I will convince her into coming to New York, or maybe I'll just go visit her. Who knows? She is a podcaster and activist, Doni Anthony. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. So I do want to start with that question, if I could. Mm-hmm. If you go back, say, I don't know, I'm making this up, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you were Black in America, there was about a 95 or 96% chance that if you voted Democrat. That was the thing. And Democrats counted on it. So they would show up every 4 years and smile and say, "Oh, we love you so much. Can we have you vote again?" And we would go, "Yes, of course you may." And Republicans would say, "Why bother? I'm not going to show up, because no matter what, you're going to vote for Democrats." So Republicans wouldn't even bother showing up. Democrats would just smile. That's not the same anymore, is it?
No, the entire environment has shifted greatly since the aftermath of not only 2016, but what we've lived through in 2020, and the amount of emotional and financial despair that Americans are going through as citizens. So, we're all going to have opinions, and I don't want to sit here too long because I want to make sure that the rest of the board is able to say their piece and their opinion. But, we'll probably get more into it. But the reason why we are seeing this situation is because the great lie has been lifted off of many of our advisors, where we're seeing the fact that the two-party system, specifically the Democrats, are hypocrites, just like the Republican Party. Both parties are one and the same. Both parties are corrupt. But the Democrats successfully put on this act for decades that they cared about women's rights or social justice issues, when all it was just a lie. And actions speak louder than words. And where do they align? They align with their corporate donors, not with people. And in my city, specifically here in Chicago, I hear all this stuff about environmentalism, social justice, protecting migrants, and none of that's happening. The people are being displaced. People are dealing with a democratic machine that is not a communist utopia. It is not. Is it a neoliberal corporatist nightmare in which There are certain
So let me give you some pushback on this,
that are favored. Hold on, that are favored by the machine to ensure their monopoly over voters.
So, but let me give you a little bit of pushback if I could.
Okay.
Hasn't that been true for a long time? Like that didn't just happen last week, last month, last year. Hasn't what you've said, and I agree with you, is true, but hasn't it been true for at least 2 decades? I'm pulling it out of my top of my head. I mean, maybe longer. I mean, at least 2 decades, right?
Well, I mean, people being loyal to a party. Yeah, it's always been that way. But the thing is, emotions do get the better. Like people do eventually realize, like in a relationship, like look at the parties, look at the politicians, like you're in a relationship. If you're constantly getting smacked around, getting cheated on, losing money, all this stuff from an abusive partner, eventually your friends or family members will sit you down aside as, hey, are you okay? Take off those sunglasses and show me that shiner. And that's what people are finally doing. They're realizing, oh, I don't have to vote Democrat. I could stay home. I mean, I don't want people to vote Republican. I don't want to see people vote Republican because it's the same thing. But, I could vote independent or third party. We are witnessing that people are accepting that idea as something far better than Team Red or Team Blue because they're both one and the same. Well, there's no difference.
I'd like you say that, though, because Joe has a great point. He's like, I can change him.
You can? That's okay. There you go, buddy. All right, Joe, you got it. It's all over now.
So, Donnie, tell me about this. Is Kit right? Is he missing something?
I think he's right on point, but I'm going to critique like the mainstream media in a sense and social media. It seems to be like more of a discussion like, hey, there's a lot of Black voters going to start supporting Trump opposed to other things.
Yep.
They're not looking at RFK Jr. They're not looking at oh my gosh, what's his name? The crazy hair guy, really nice guy.
Dr. Cornel
West.
Cornel West. They're not talking about him. But the thing is, everyone's talking about from Democrat to Trump again. So it's still kind of they're going in between it. But here's the thing: if they're going to vote for Trump for president, what's the down ballot going to look like? Are they going to vote for Republicans down ballot? Because have the Republicans actually earned the vote, or are they just voting because it's Trump? So here's my other thing is, if you're not going to show up to vote, well, if you don't show up to vote because of the presidency, you have local elections going on at the same time. So it's not really the best idea to sit at home because you may have things coming that are having to increase your taxes from your states, have incentives for you. So you got to be on that because it's not just about the every 4 years. It's the biggest and worst election ever. This is the end all be all because you still have other things down the ballot to be looking at besides just Trump and Biden.
You got local elections too. Julian, step in here.
Hey, I can't disagree with anything that's been said so far. I mean, I think we've gone way far left. And now that the left is so close to accomplishing everything they said that they wanted, they've not only fumbled the ball, but refused to even walk down that road. You got Republican side. We're expecting, I think Donnie's right. Trump is showing to have good poll numbers or increasingly better poll numbers, but Republicans
he's winning
aren't.
most
and
polls.
Yes,
yeah,
but
right.
Republicans in general aren't. So this is the difference between how people are able to distinguish between a candidate and a party. And what we're seeing is how you ask the question in the poll, which is always true and always has been true. How you ask the question determines how the question is answered. So Trump is looking like he's going to have a surge, but that doesn't necessarily translate to anybody down ballot. And in a lot of these Black communities and Hispanic communities where the Democrats have had a machine that has existed literally unopposed for the past 60 plus years, Republicans haven't even looked at Hispanic voters until the past 8 years.
That's true.
And it's largely due to the backlash from Obama going into Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump actually wanted the Hispanic vote, even though the Republican Party did not. I think that's the dividing line.
And I want to touch 2 parts of the Trump piece. Part number 1, I think that you're right. There are people who would walk into a booth, circle Trump, and walk out. I mean, there are people who would do that, right? And I know people who do it. Walk in, I'm just voting for the president or just for the governor or whatever. Circle one thing, boom, walk out. No one else.
Even worse. even worse, who they saw the most lawn signs for.
Yes.
Like, I've gone over voter data, and it literally comes down to, if you want to get a voter, it's 7 touches per voter. 7 touches. Doesn't matter whether it's mailers, radio, seeing an ad, digital ads, text messaging. It's 7 touches per voter. So when you see the signs just littered all over the place, like I'm up here in New Hampshire, it's the free state where it's grassroots politics at its best. The every corner of the road is littered with signs for random candidates, and it literally comes down to whoever, for a lot of people, with access to the ballot being so easy, the more signs you see, the more that person rings in your mind. And on a Republican ballot and a Democrat ballot, a lot of the time, well, on the Republican ballot, you see large primaries for even small races. But on the Democrat ballots, a lot of them run unopposed because they coordinate better prior to the election.
You know,
like and that's even for nonpartisan town offices up here. They're far more organized than we are. We absolutely suck at this.
Go, Donnie.
Remember in Kentucky, they had the governor race, and then they had Daniel Cameron, who was endorsed by Trump. And then you have Andy, and he actually won. And everyone on Twitter went insane saying, oh, they cheated. We need to check this out. And I'm talking about, you guys don't know the people in Kentucky. They like Trump. They did not like Daniel. And there's many reasons why they like Daniel. Breonna Taylor being a part of the reason why. So it's not, that's another reason why this down ballot thing is. Trump is selling, it's like having a sales team in a sense, like Trump is selling to the general public in a sense, but his other teammates aren't at all. So what's that mean in the local elections then? I think Kentucky was a good example. They really thought Daniel was liked. Now he's not liked, and he had plenty of commercials, and I saw his commercials, I saw Andy's commercials, but people in Kentucky did not like Daniel.
Well, there are reasons for this. There's a couple of things I want to bring up. Donnie, you brought up how the media has been covering, they keep on speaking about Donald Trump. I mean, obviously they're going to do that because 2015 and 2016, Trump was that injection that gave corporate media back to life, because that's all what they talked about. He was that huge incentive. However, there is this unique phenomenon that I have seen since the Democratic primary was lackluster and mediocre. The war on third parties has intensified to the likes of which is pale in comparison to 2016 and 2020. Dr. Cornel West, vilified. Jill Stein, she's used to that, vilified. RFK Jr. is being viewed as a person that's a threat to Joe Biden, then somehow a threat to Trump, all this kind of stuff. We're seeing this warpath, and it's because there's a lack of voter enthusiasm. And Julian, I like your points that you're bringing up, but I have to push back on this. Joe Biden and being on the left, I say this as somebody who is on the left. I am politically homeless. That administration represents zero of my values. And let's talk about voter enthusiasm. If we've been following the Democratic primaries, especially in deep blue states, they have been pathetically low in comparison to 2020 and 2016, which means only the diehard vote blue, no matter who sycophants are the people showing up. And these liberals who are showing up are indicating that they are building a coalition with progressives. They are not. There's no incentive for anyone on the left. Anyone that I spoke to who's part of any kind of leftist group is either resigned, looking at third-party choice, or either that refusing to even follow this election because of how pathetic this administration has been in regards to follow-through. I mean, we got planes, trains, and automobiles and bridges falling apart all across this country. We have an entire Congress, Democrat lawmakers and Republican lawmakers, expanding their portfolios. If you guys haven't followed Unusual Whales, please do so. It is very eye-opening in regards to how corrupt these politicians are. And Donnie, to your point of how a Republican candidate has TV show, or not TV shows, but commercials, and his name is out there. They could plaster their name out there, but all it takes is one dedicated social media post or a Facebook group or a Twitter group or an Instagram group, and that person is done like that because word goes out. Just because they got the money doesn't mean they have the security of the voters, because people are wising up to it. It's either they're a one-person voter, citizen ballot initiative voter, or they'll just vote for whoever they feel like and then walk on out. Gone are the days of I'm going to fill out everything. People are now looking who's in it for them.
Let me touch that piece if I could too. And the other thing is, I feel like more and more people than ever are exactly what you're saying, Kit, not just going, well, the Democrats said this or the Republicans said that. They're going, let me see what my Twitter guy said. Let me see what my talking head on YouTube said. Let me go see what TikTok is saying. Let me go see. Right? People are looking at other people and seeing what they're saying on top of it. It's not like he just goes, oh, well, my talking head, whatever, on MSNBC or Fox News said that. You're
fanboy politics.
Go ahead.
That's fanboy politics right there. I mean, that's about as plain and simple as it gets. And you know what? Some of the talking heads, some of the influencers, I met them. Some of them I like, some of them I dislike. I've been pretty apparent about the ones that I like and the ones that I don't. But I think everything that Kit said.
Though, hold on.
Yes.
Isn't fanboy politics better than just accepting my left-right paradigm? I mean, it's not perfect, obviously, because now some knucklehead can just say some stupid stuff and we believe him or her. But I mean, isn't it better?
No, because at the core of it, it's a lack of critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's
exactly.
a lack of doing your own research into the candidates and who's got the best for you. It's about time. And this is why when people complain about our options, independents or anyone who's not registered to a party or who doesn't pay attention till October, if you just started paying attention in September and you're pissed off because Joe Biden and Donald Trump are your options, well, guess what? It's your fault. You didn't vote in the primary. That's how they got here. If you look at primary turnout, for almost every race, doesn't matter what it is, it usually is right around like an 1/8 to a 10th of the electorate, of the people who are actually going to be voting in a general election. So what you have is the most hardcore people. We wonder why the left has gone so far left there, where you have chop genitals off of anyone, including 5-year-olds, or abortion for like 80-month abortion. Like crazy positions that no rational person would have. And you wonder why you see like not just the typical, Republicans are racist, but we actually have legit white nationalists with large platforms who now, thanks to being lumped in with us, they're able to actually get a foothold. Because now these days, anything that's been canceled is based.
Well,
fanboy politics is just a nice way of saying that you went from being totally disengaged to letting somebody else do your thinking for you. Either way, you're not thinking for yourself, and I don't care whether you're left or you're right. But if you're not thinking for yourself, on this one too.
I do have to weigh on this. Go ahead.
One of them is the left you mentioned was only on social issues. And there is a massive chunk of people on the left who
I don't want
to economic issues also. So I'm going to put that there's two parts to that.
Yes. I don't want to pretend like it's just social issues that the left has gone far left on, and that's what people are backlashing against. What I'm saying is, I listen to a lot of Democrats, and I mean just local community and when I fly around the country, who all say, this is not the party of my father, my grandfather, my grandmother. I mean, like even civil rights activists who say this, and they're going.
That is my exact
I never
point.
thought
I feel like let me tell you. I feel like the Democrat Party, to be forward with you, and I know a lot of people on the left, isn't really left. I mean, I'm sorry. The rhetoric is. Let me be very clear. The rhetoric of a Democratic Party is absolutely left. The rhetoric is, but the actual governing is very much middle of the road. Kit, tell me I'm wrong. Am I wrong on this?
Well, here's the whole idea. Okay, the Democratic Party, it is an institution based on, again, corporatist policy and numbers. What we are seeing by the Democrats is a forced integration of everybody to have a Big Tent party to appease and pander to a lot of people, because we have to look at the fall of 2016. But that is not the left. What that is grouping everyone together and assuming no one's going to push back or complain about the space, because once you have everyone in one big room, people are going to want to scream out and have the leadership role. And there's all this pandering. There's all this appeasement. That's what the Democrats are trying to do and make it into some sort of mainstream policy. A lot of stuff that you listed about the Democratic Party, or at least what we're seeing about to kids, because we got to be careful on YouTube, obviously, because careful with words. But look, that's something I don't agree with. What you have people posting on there, but the Democrats shot themselves in the foot to pander to everyone because of Trump derangement syndrome. The Democratic Party, as an institution, did this to cause people to be fear and panic and LARP at the idea that somehow Trump was Hitler 2.0. But that's not the fact, because Trump and Hitler are two different things altogether. And when you have a tent like this that's so crowded, people are going to say, well, screw this. I can't even get my voice out. And if I say something, automatically I'm a villain. And that's why we're seeing such a massive migration outside of the Democratic Party, why numbers have been so pathetically low. Look at in my state, in Illinois, voter turnout has been extremely low for the Democratic primary in March. It was the lowest I've ever seen because no one is enthusiastic for the Democratic Party here in my state. Now, Illinois will be a blue state. Of course it will be. But it all depends on voter turnout, which is why perhaps historically we could see a real movement for independents to maybe gain, dare I say it, one of them to get an electoral college vote, which would be historic and significant in many ways. And why then are also people leaving for Donald Trump, or at least to that to the Republican Party? It's not for Republican Party values. It's because of they don't like how old man Biden's policies, because perception drives reality. And when you have a senile old man, and I've dealt with 3 relatives who have dealt with dementia and Alzheimer's, when you have an old man that doesn't know where he's at, stuttering, stammering, not taking questions from the president, and put it in comparison to Trump, people will migrate to strengths. We are still a primal species.
Well, that's true. Yes,
and that's what we do. And that's also why maybe it can also explain RFK Jr.'s numbers, and to the extent Stein's and Cornel West. Now, again, those numbers that I mentioned of those 3 still low, but anything can happen between now before we get to November.
Yeah, but the more important piece I think there, which you brought up, is right. If this was, again, 10, 15 years ago, they just either don't show up or they just vote for the other guy, which there is some of that. There's some of the, if you look at, and I think this is clear, I think, in black men, which is under Trump, I had a job. Under Trump, I was making money. Under Trump, I was getting a check. Under Trump, things weren't that bad. Now things are bad. I'm going back to Trump. I think a lot of it is that simple. Just like I'm going to Trump.
Be that. Yeah. No. That's basic thing too. Because the average person.
I think some of it. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is like the average person. Like look at our media space and what we cover here. How many people are really of the American people? Let's have an honest conversation about how many people are really tuned in to the bigger scope of things that we cover on our shows, respectively. Not a whole lot. 10%. And you can blame corporate media for doing that, for not only hypnotizing and dumbing people down, but also making sure that people aren't engaged. So what you brought up is, oh, hey, things were better for me under Trump. That is an argument that I've heard from a lot of people who are not either Democrat or Republican, not even independent. It's like, things are better on the other guy. I'm going to go there. And that's human nature, because that's who we are. Were things better on the other guy or this guy? Tomato.
I think that means a lot, too. It's not just, you got to remember, when we had Obama ran as a anti-establishment candidate.
I remember.
By
greatest
comparison
trick
to Hillary.
he ever did. Greatest trick
he ever did. Well, great trick. Well done. He pulled it off.
He did it by comparison to Hillary. Then you get Trump ran as the pinnacle of the all-encompassing anti-establishment on the right. And he got shit for it. But the reality is Trump is the only Republican president, that has even said black without insulting black people as a whole.
I think you're right.
In literally my entire lifetime. And the funny thing is, like, he'll attack the left. He'll attack pundits. He'll attack literally anyone who has anything negative to say about Trump. He's got nothing but fire and brimstone for you. Might drop a Moab on you. But when it comes to actually attacking voters, that's something that he doesn't do. Now, the punditry influencers on our side of the aisle have nothing positive to say about black people. And this is what I say to Republicans everywhere, even in the liberty movement. So, like, I'm in New Hampshire. So I have Jeremy Kauffman and all of them. I have LP and H and stuff. And I have no problem calling them out for saying doing the exact same stuff I see from Republican influencers that I just spent like the past 6, 7, 8 years fighting. Like, you don't insult the people that you want to vote from.
Julian,
I would not call a woman fat if I wanted to take her to bed tonight. If I wanted to sleep in my own bed and I wanted to get some from my wife, I'm not going to say that she's fat and needs to put makeup on. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And you should never talk to a voter any way that you wouldn't talk to a woman if you were trying to take her out on a date or not get a divorce.
There's hesitation.
Go ahead, Donnie.
And there's hesitation, with the voters when they see that. You see, oh, well, they're saying things. Why should I vote for this party? They're racist. And when libertarians started, a few people doing it, the leadership stepped up and they said something. Well, I don't see the RNC doing
Republican
it or
leadership
other
doesn't do
pundits.
it.
Yeah, they don't.
Right. And the thing is, honestly, it's like, but here's the thing. I haven't heard Trump do it either, though. I haven't seen him say, hey, Charlie Kirk, what are you doing? I haven't seen it. But would I like to see him do it?
Yep.
Yes, I would like to. But the thing is, libertarians are a lot smaller, right? We're a smaller group of people, where the Republicans are established. They're huge. If you really wanted to see some things work out, I would like to see Trump call out people like Charlie Kirk and all of them. Because my thing is, if you're not saying anything, I feel like you're okay with it. You can't tell me you don't know what's going on. You can't tell me you don't know what's happening. But for me, I'm just like, that's an issue. And also on the side of me being a conservative at one point, and I am heavily an anarchist, but libertarian as well. Understand I'm gonna have a government while I live, probably until I die. But when I call out the fact that Louisiana is trying to add 10 commandments in every classroom, and I say how that it is unconstitutional, and then I'm being told, "Oh, Donnie, this is this, that, and the third. Oh, that's the federal government saying that." I'm like, I thought you were, why do you have a constitutionalist in your bio if you've never read the Constitution? You don't even comprehend the document that you're saying you're defending. I have an issue with that. Right. And if you know me, and these people have been following me for years, you follow me for a long time, you should know that I know my stuff. I don't just throwing things out there. I might sprinkle out crumbs before I give you all the whole explosion, the seeds. But the problem is, I left. I walked away from conservatives. I've never been a Democrat my whole entire life. I got Republicans accusing me of being a Democrat because I'm standing up for the Constitution. What does that say about the base and how they're going to be voting moving forward? Because I'm at a point where they will vote probably for the most authoritarian person who will lock you up as long as it wasn't a Democrat. And it's just that the thing is that people aren't looking at. As you know, I work heavily with the game fowl community, small farmers. They're seeing Democrats and Republicans creating policies that hurt them. Even names you probably wouldn't even expect, like Matt Gaetz and things of that nature. People you think are big liberty loving freedom people. And they're looking like, oh, we're politically homeless too. What are we supposed to do now? And so, like I said, in Texas, I started hooking them up with the libertarians. Got a Supreme Court guy running down there. They love him. They're promoting him like crazy. But the thing is, people need to find the solution, because sometimes if they didn't have a libertarian there, they will bite the bullet and keep voting Republican, or the few small group of them that vote Democrat.
I was actually on a show once, and I was on the Vanguard, which is a left-leaning show out of, I think, Kansas City, I think. And I was telling them how I would actually vote for Cornel West. And they said, what? Why would you vote for Cornel West? I said, if he's the only guy on the ballot, and it's Republican, Democrat, Cornel West, I'm voting Cornel West. They're like, what? But he's like, we do not agree on policies. We don't. But I'm like you, Donnie. I am so much about breaking this system. I am so much about getting away from the two-party system that literally someone who I don't agree. I've met the man. You're right, Donnie. I love the man. He's a great guy. I love him. I think he's amazing. But politically, we're just not the same, right? At all. Yeah. But I would still support him just to break the third-party system.
Now, the thing is, Donnie and Julian, you both brought this up about these commentators, especially Republican commentators and Democratic commentators. You got Charlie Kirk, you got Hassan Piker, you got all these people who have these large social media followings. But the thing is, eventually their power and influence will, again, wither away because it will die on the vine. They are not serious people, to quote Logan Roy from Succession. They are not serious people. What they are doing is using words like constitutionalist or progressive or left-leaning or right-leaning to emotionally trigger our primal minds, or use it at people's minds, into saying that they are that choice. Now, there is the ever-growing danger of the influencer person who is helping dictate policy. And of course, Trump is never going to call out Charlie Kirk. And of course, the Democrats will never call out any left or liberal speaking person who has like millions upon millions of social media followings. But eventually, these unserious people who put on this act of saying, oh, we got to vote Democrat because Republicans will destroy the world. And we got to vote a Republican because the Democrats will destroy all our family values. Eventually they tire out because a lie, you only can keep on spouting it for so long. They do collapse, and then there's always another click, copy, paste version of them waiting in wings. What I tell my audience is this: when I'm done with my morning show, I expect them to look at other different perspectives and points of view, be it the Larry Sharpe Show, RBN, Jimmy Dore, whoever, even those who even channels who I disagree with, because it's important for us to become well-rounded.
100%.
The good news is that people are waking up to it. The unfortunate thing is there's a vast majority of people who are wanting to be engaged, but maybe don't understand just overall what is being laid out before them. Donnie, you talked about people who to say they're constitutionists. They say that word, but the quote from the Princess Brides, you're saying that word, but I don't think you understand what it means. And they don't. There's a lot of people who don't understand the word constitutionalist. And yes, it's wrong to have the 10 Commandments in a school, because there's supposed to be a separation between church and state. I get it that people take their faith important. This goes for all faith. It's fine. But there's a separation between church and state, just like there should be a separation between money and state. But that's a whole conversation for another day.
Let me grab a couple of.
But let me just finish my point here. But it's important. But it is important for us as commentators to look at this and see how people are reacting to this election cycle. The fact that you have black voters either willing to vote third party or for Trump, or either that not vote at all, is something historic that we would not have seen 2 decades ago. This is unprecedented. That goes for Latino voters. This goes for women voters. This even goes for young voters, because the fact that you have people leaving or looking at other options that were stuttered there, that were unconceivable for like 10 or 20 years ago. It is historic and something that data needs to be collected on this to overall see how people will vote in November.
Right. All right. Let me grab a couple of super chats if I could. Just one of the Lunatic Libertarian, thank you for the $1.99. Appreciate it. F a job. Let me live off my production. I'm with you, but your production could also be a job.
Yeah.
It could also get you money. So yes, but I don't think you have to go with the first 2 F's to allow you to have the third. I think you can do all of them together if you want. I think you can. But what can we do to make sure that we are living off our production? Guys, do me a favor. If you're listening to this, click the button that is like. Do that now. Click the button that is like. It's important you do that. If you're watching this right now on X or on Twitter, retweet this, repost this, re-X this, whatever is the re-thing, whatever, do that. And of course, you can follow what the Lunatic Libertarian has done. You can super chat me if you're watching on YouTube. If you don't want to super chat me, that is okay. You can instead just click subscribe. That's awesome. Subscribe, click that button. That would be important. If you really love them, you can always become a member. Click the join button, $49 per month, become a member on YouTube is always a cool thing. One more super chat. Snork Y2K, thank you for the $5. Dems pushing aliens into cities to keep congressional seats and elect votes. Ooh, October. Now this is an interesting piece.
That is
like this.
That is a situation that we're seeing in our city. So, and it's something I could theorize most likely is happening. So, to the conservatives and libertarians who are watching this wonderful show, Chicago's not a communist utopia. What it is it is a successful corporate machine. It's just hiding by the name Democrat. And you could be a Republican, but the thing is, eventually you're going to have to play the wink. Yes, I'm a Democrat.
Hold on 1 second, Kit. I want to give you the perfect example of what you just said. And I'm going to let you go again. But we just said, don't forget, everybody, Bloomberg was New York's Republican mayor. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead, Kit.
Yeah, and somehow he got in the Democratic primary in 2020. How did he pull that off? It's called money, and that's how you play the machine. And
Mitt Romney will be over there very soon.
Precisely, and here's the thing: when you have a machine like Chicago, for example, you can thank Old Man Daley and the old guard for making it what it is. The thing is, you did have party loyalists and people who did turn up, but as a machine being corrupt, it's going to chew people up, spit them out, and people will not be engaged. And then all of a sudden, as was happening in Chicago, the machine is starting to crack. It is starting to fall apart. And when you have migrants coming in, and I feel sorry for the kids, because at a lot of these shelters, there's measles and other outbreaks that are happening there, unsanitary conditions. They were brought in, given homes or either that jobs. And look, I get it. If people want to improve their lives or either get out of a horrific situation, which was probably caused by the U.S. doing, regime change wars and the war on drugs and all that other stuff, story for another time. But there's a reason why there's such a massive influx. When you bring people in and use them as pawns, what this is setting them up as potential future party supporters. We'll help you and get your kids citizenship if you wink, register with the party, wink, get signed up. It's not like Chicago's had a long, sad history of people turning up to vote or either that votes disappearing. It is something that is all too familiar with here in Chicago. Look, I mean, the best story ever, I'll never forget this 2018 midterm election cycle. It was when Jimmy Dore was still on TYT, and there was a progressive candidate running for the 3rd congressional seat, and it looked like she was winning, and then all of a sudden her votes disappeared. Jank was like, whoa, what happened? And Jimmy just looked at him nonchalantly and said, oh, that's Chicago. The votes disappeared.
That's Chicago. That's how that works.
That's how it works. It's like, yeah, that's how it happens. But it's about maintaining a machine.
Here.
What's up?
You have a fan here in the form of Jeff Charles. He says, Kit nailed it. Many of these right-leaning influencers are not serious people.
That's right.
Convinced their audiences that they are.
And it's on the left, too.
Yes, of course. And he's still not done because he goes, okay, Kit called the Princess Bride. I'm now a fan of his. So there we go. You got it.
Good.
Exactly.
All right.
Michael Voss is watching. He agrees with you, Kit, too. He says, Hassan and Kirk are entertainers, just like LeBron. I think that's true.
Fair assessment.
I think that's true for both sides of the aisle. I think that the problem is that like you said, they're not serious people, and so many are convinced that they are. And I think a lot of it comes down to we're stuck in between this gang war, this Bloods versus Crips, this West Side Story play going on in front of our face.
But there's no dancing. I want some dancing.
Without the dancing and without the singing, they convinced us that, you know what, as long as I'm attacking the people who are attacking you, then I'm on your side, and therefore I'm a voice you should listen to. And the left and the right play that game. I did a live the other day where, from a black influencer perspective, if you're a black Republican on the right, you have to talk shit about black people.
Yeah.
Or at least you think you do. If you're on the left as a black influencer, you have to blame everything on white supremacy and talk shit about white people. And the funny thing is, I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. All government is local, whether you're in a Democrat district or Republican district. That local government can protect you from bad policy and insulate you the way it should, or it can double down. And it can negate. It can also negate good policy, and it can double down on good policy.
We see that in the cities.
So your local government determines whether a federal policy, good or bad, actually affects you. That's why some policies don't affect you depending on where you live. That's why we have so many people, and we're looking at it as people who live our lives engaged in politics. We look at it and go, wow, it's amazing that the rest of the country hasn't caught on to what we caught on. We're paying attention. For them, they won't pick it up until October, and then by the time they make their decision, it'll be a week after the election. They'll go, oh, shit, he just passed 40 executive orders knowing God knows what. Damn, I messed up. I guess I should have paid attention.
If I could. Mm-hmm. So you're getting fans off of me, Kit. I like it. Gene goes, Kit has a good understanding of how things work. So there we go. So here's what I want you guys to do. If you're watching this now, do me a favor. I know I've actually clicked the like button for me, but also follow these three people who are doing all their own work too. You want to follow what Donnie's doing? She's been on the show talking about what she's doing. Follow her on Twitter, if you would, at Donnie_. You can also see what she's doing if you want to go to the show description on both Facebook and YouTube. Please, if you would, follow Kit. You can follow me there at Kit Cabello, or also Heartlands Media 99, right? Is that right? Heartlands Media 99. Or you can follow him just on Twitter, either one. He's got a show he does. Is it Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday?
Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central, the correct time in the morning.
So he punishes himself every day. So please join him every once in a while, if you would, as I do, and see what he's doing over there. You can if you want to. And of course, not just that. I know we have so many people here, but also Julian here, he does the Blue Collar Intellectual Podcast, which I've been on. So you can check that out on YouTube, or you can also follow him also on Twitter at ACR2022. Want to make sure we got that out before we kept going. Now I want to grab two more super chats if I could. Lunatic Libertarian, thank you again. Dollars is a system of control. Stop participating. And he then goes on to false sense of security is politics 101. And I want to touch both of those because the dollar that we have, perfect. Okay. Dollar that we have is a false insecurity because it's not worth anything. So he's right for the first one and the second one. And his second piece is, yes, the more I say this all the time, almost all of the laws and policies of America that I hate all began with afraid Americans, right? Yep. Afraid Americans is what made things I don't like. And then they passed the law that doesn't actually help. But to his point, now I feel better. Someone passed the law, so now things are better. We didn't change anything, but somebody passed the law, so now I feel better. I completely agree with this. Go ahead, Donnie.
That's one of the worst things in D.C. is the idea that we have to just do something.
Yes. Donnie, go ahead.
You know, I was kind of sad you guys kind of skipped over his first comment because I want to take a little chance to brag a little bit. I have a younger sister. She's in her mid-20s. So she's pretty young compared to myself. And she has conversations with me about politics. And she says, when I tell my friends what you do for a living, I feel so proud to tell them, like, you're an activist and you're out there doing this. If I have a question, I can come to you. And so the thing is really important. One day she said, hey, Donnie, I really effing hate money. I hate the dollar bills. It's like you do all this work to have this dollar bill, not to be able to have much spending power. And I was like, Jeff, oh my gosh, I think my little sister may become a libertarian. I don't know yet. You know, and so that was an issue. So she's a younger person. You know, we talk about, you know, the Black folks, the women, but there's a lot of the young kids who are back in the gap. Socialists, communists would go when you guys are having issues. Let us give you something for free to solve your problems, opposed to showing a different solution. And so this whole money piece of it, I think that should be talked about more because they're seeing a problem. They're seeing they're working really hard, and people are like, oh, you just want to be lazy. You just want to do that. I think they're seeing I'm working my butt off. I hate this job. I'm trying to do better, but I'm not getting my fruit of my labor. So that's what we preach, right? I think that we have that conversation. That's important. One other thing, I'm going to kind of criticize Libertarian Party. It could just be my fault or the people talking. I did not know Art, the gentleman running for president right now, was a mayor or was on city council as well in California.
Art Olivier.
And when people say, well, how would libertarianism work? I said, well, that's an example. I didn't know until I went to Illinois' Libertarian Party convention when he mentioned it on stage. Yep. During his 5 years on city council, 1994 and 1999, he privatized the city's tree trimming, crossing guards, street sweeping, and building department. He eliminated the city's lighting tax assessment and did not allow eminent domain to be exercised while on council. We should be explaining that to people because, I mean, I'm sorry. We're talking about the other third-party people. I want my libertarian people to get their percentage they need. I know it's going to be a lot harder with all these other people in the game.
It's tough.
But, like, those are the things that you should be pointing out.
Yeah. Actually, by the way, Jeff Hewitt in California was also a town supervisor in Riverside, California. So, yes, we have had a couple people here or there. We do get a couple here or there, make some things happen. It does happen. So once in a while we get it.
I feel like if we highlighted them as much or more than Ron Paul, where we're talking about decentralizing, why aren't we highlighting what the local people have done while they were in office so it helps sell what we're doing? Say, look what they did. That's an example. How would libertarianism look?
Well,
look at New Hampshire. We have like 80 of them elected as state reps. We have a whole bunch elected to local office up here. We have non-affiliated candidates who are all, I mean, most of the libertarians up here, they'll run as a Republican for the infrastructure purposes, or for the state rep, but for local office, they run as libertarians. They're all over the place up here. I mean, the Free State Project really did a good job of infiltrating the state. I have my disagreements with them because they're not always productive, and I have an issue like anyone pushing towards more liberty and the protection of rights of average everyday citizens is like, it doesn't matter what party you're in. We're cool. We're family. But the counterproductive stuff is the stuff that I criticize. And all I say is, look, if there are some arguments that you have today, and there's arguments you have after you accomplish this first step. Like, I'm not going to argue about what
Yeah.
sneakers I'm wearing after I've already run the race and lost.
I want to acknowledge somebody. He's one of the followers on my show, and he's one of my moderators. Dr. Nick asks, is electoral politics even relevant? I would say yes and no. On the national scale, when it comes down to president, I mean, ideally, I would like to see the third parties, at least all of them, get one electoral college vote. I mean, that's shooting high, and but obviously the most likely scenario is either one or two of them maybe getting enough votes to be recognized as a legitimate party. The Greens and Libertarians could benefit greatly from it. So but at the end of the day, it's going to be Democrat versus Republican. Doesn't matter who sits on the throne. When it comes down to local politics, then the answer is yes, it is relevant. But that's where also citizen ballot initiatives come into play. And Dr. Nick knows that I've talked about citizen ballot initiatives. Roger Meadows, who's in the chat, talks about citizen ballot initiatives, but let's call them citizen battle initiatives, because it's a way in which we can regain our state's rights to start implementing policies that the federal government will never do. And one of them I'm in favor of is obviously getting money out of politics, but also calling for the complete abolition and destruction of all political parties so that we can maybe have a true direct democracy. Citizen ballot initiatives can lead that way. And yes, voting independent for local, state, city council elections is fundamentally important, because that's really going to impact your lives. The president of the United States, be it Trump or Biden, God forbid it's Biden or whatever, whatever, they're not going to give a damn. They're going to sit on the throne, and Goldman Sachs is going to be in their ear. That's what's going to happen. That's the game. I'm sorry, Trump supporters or Democrat supporters. That's just how it is. The banks and Wall Street and the corporate donors are going to be either in Trump's office or in Biden's office. However, which way this plays out, that's what's going to happen.
So let me touch the point you brought up, which is the everyone getting electoral votes. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is talking about it. Lars Mapstead and the Libertarian Party is talking about it. Now I've even heard Jill Stein's people talking about it now.
Good.
The idea of trying to stop either one from getting 270, right?
Good.
The electoral votes. So that it gets thrown into the Congress. And what I would say is, I think the odds of it going into the Congress, the odds are Trump would still win at this moment unless enough electoral votes are done. But the fact that it would get thrown into the Congress would still be worth it, I think, even if a third party doesn't win the presidency.
Yeah, no, I want to see that happen. I want to see it happen because
I do too. I'm with you.
For many aspects. First of all, it is a chance to really put this system into overdrive in regards towards how we need to tear apart the Congress, and not mean just complete anarchy, but more of a complete reset of how our congressional system is run. More importantly, it could theoretically maybe cause more voter engagement and people to finally really look into how sick our system is and how we have to fix it, because we saw an example of it with Matt Gaetz doing the force to vote, that the Democrats, most notably when Jimmy Dore did force to vote in 2021,
and AOC
backed away. Matt Gaetz, though, proved that force to vote is not only a viable option, but it made those congressmen and women's lives a living hell in 2022, which was a work of art. I loved it. But also for a petty reason, I want to see a lot of liberals cry. There's no analysis on it. That's not a serious thing, but it's just because I've been talked down to by a lot of liberals, and I do want to see them cry. So
I want to see Republicans cry. I want to see Republicans
is loving
cry.
you, man.
I wanted to say, I'm a fan of Kit as well, and I want to point out something else what he was talking about. There was always a discussion about reforming the criminal justice system. It doesn't need to be reformed. It doesn't need to be thrown all the way out. As you start digging deeper and you go down the rabbit hole, you'll realize that the bar associations have a monopoly over the entire justice system, and they have unified with the legislation, the judicial, and obviously the executive branch as well. So there's never been a real plan, because they never actually tackled a real problem when it comes to the criminal justice reform issue. And I would say with the local stuff, educating your community is really important, because who's going to possibly be on your jury? What is your jury? Your jury has the capability of saying that the law is no good, is not valid. Because, in Louisiana, they were trying to charge a man for 15, 20 years for being possession of an ounce of marijuana, and they couldn't get people to try him. They couldn't get jury members to do it. So if your jury people in your community are familiar with their actual rights they understand the limitations of their government, that they're more likely to not enforce a bad law. But I think the big problem is we have outsource our rights to political parties. Okay, like that's a big issue.
Yep.
I was at one point where I was
Yep.
like, abolish all parties. And then I figured they're still going to figure out something anyways, regardless of the party there is or not. And then I looked at it like this. Well, if you educate your community and they know what your rights are, the limitations, they're least likely to throw you in the way. But people outsource the rights to parties, they outsource the rights to an attorney.
Yep.
You don't know your rights, but this attorney's giving you, do you know if your attorney is giving you good or bad advice? Look at the plea deal rates. We don't have a justice system. There's people who are taking plea deals for things that aren't even crimes. I will plug my Vices, Crimes, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Go to www.libertyaros.com. Because there's a distinct difference. We should not be locking people up for vices. If they did not harm another person or property, fraud, all the other stuff, then why are they wasting people's time making them go through the system?
Agreed.
So
agreed. I just want to pile on what Kit said real quick and say, I kind of want to see the Republican Party suffer. I want to see them cry. Like, don't get me wrong. I want Trump to win the election, but I want it to go to Congress because I want half of Congress to be exposed as a part of what they are, the machine.
Yes.
I want both sides. I would love to wake up to November 6th and everyone decide, you know what? It looks like we're going to have to get rid of everybody in Congress. Everyone who's been there for longer than 12 years needs to go.
Well, hold on, wait.
That's what I want to see. I want to see, just clean everybody out. Because at this point, I can count the number of people I trust on one hand.
Yep.
I've met most of them. I can count the ones that I would trust to be even somewhat decent on one hand. No, and that's Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter.
Now the thing is what could happen after this election cycle is the overall resentment and anger that many Americans have towards these older politicians. Because if we look at our leadership from the founding of the Republic and even up until now, there's a huge, vast difference in what is representing us. We had men in their 20s and 30s and 40s in key positions of power, but now since then, this government is a house of geriatrics. Okay, and I'm not saying that people in their 80s and 90s can't do things, but being in charge of a global superpower is not one of them, or either that instituting legislation that is impacting our lives. And a lot of these congressmen and women are in their 80s and 90s, and they do have to go. And this is something that's going to require voter engagement. But the Democratic and Republican parties are going to have to be systematically taken down a peg, because we're going to have people realizing that if you vote Democrat or Republican, let's say you vote a new Republican or Democrat into office, it's the same grape that's going to be turned the same vintage of wine, and they're going to stay in there for 20 and 30 years and not get anything done. There has to be term limits. There has to be getting money out of politics. There has to be a full abolition or the destruction of all political parties, or either that the representation of third parties and independents finally in our Congress. And dare I say it, maybe having a multi-party Congress. But then when you have a multi-party, you do then have the Hydra. Instead of the two-headed monster, you have the Hydra. So long as you have money in politics, that's going to be an issue. There's going to be various things that Americans are going to have to get engaged in civically to fight for that better future. And if we want Congress,
I want to grab a couple things if I could here.
Okay, if I just add this one thing. If we want the full takedown of Congress, what has to happen in this election cycle is not only voter engagement with independents and third parties, but maybe bringing this presidential election into Congress so that people can see how ineffective our Congress is. It is the ultimate.
Yes,
it is.
I think that's Julian's point.
It is a high, tall order, but it can be done, possibly, theoretically.
Let me grab two more super chats if I could. Lunatic Libertarian again. Thank you. Thank you for all the super chats, my friend. I appreciate it. 49. I can work for an hourly rate. I can work to produce food, shelter, and clothing from generational skill sets. We need skilled all-around human beings. This is a whole different show, but yes, we really should be having more people in our trades. That's true, but that's not this show, but yes. Also, he says, anarchy is the only reset to optimize human production because the value of uplifting a fellow human is more profitable than money. Love one another. Agreed. So I'm going to touch a piece that Kit brought up. Even if we don't get rid of political parties, even if we don't, at least get them off the ballot. At a minimum, just get them off the ballot so that a name is on the ballot. You don't promote a party on the ballot. You got to know who the person is or not. I mean, at least that. But coming up on the first hour of the show, and I want to bring up an important question. We didn't answer. We just kind of went. Do we think we know where people of color, where their vote's going to go? We just kind of went off the thing. It's all Donnie's fault. I blame her. We just went off the thing. I'm just saying.
Can I give it a?
Go ahead, please.
Can I give it a go? All right. So I keep using this analogy because I think it properly shows the issue. In relation to black voters, which are the ones that are moving, Hispanic voters for the last, I want to say 15 years, 16 years, have been much more independent minded and started to have massive swings. And I think we saw that in 2012, 2016, and 2020.
Yeah. I think Hispanic voters have been much more movable than the black voters in America. That's true. Yes.
Yeah, but the big shift is where black voters are landing. And what I keep saying is, in relation to the black community, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are like an absent father and an abusive mother. And you could blame, like, the first thing the absent father, the Republican Party, wants to do when it shows up and it sees the problem in the household is tell that young boy, put down the 40 ounce, turn off that rap music, pull up your pants, get a job, and stop sticking your junk in everything and making random babies. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. That tough love. But the father wasn't there for this child's entire life to build rapport and show love first. Therefore, his comments can't be taken as tough love. They're taken as an insult and disrespect.
Yep.
And therefore, the child goes, you haven't earned that level of credibility with me.
Right.
I'm going to stick it out with the abusive mother, because I already covered, Republicans aren't in urban communities. No black person alive today has lived under Republican Party or under conservative principles of governance, the conservation of the Constitution, the Republic, and the inalienable rights of individuals.
There we go.
And like the average black person hasn't lived under governance like that. And even when they do get something that sounds like that, it's authoritarianism on the right. And it doesn't ends up in it, or it ends up being the same policies with a different spin and a different sales pitch.
So with all of that, though,
I'll
where
stick
do you
it out
think
with
the
the
vote is going
abusive
to go?
mother. Well, that's the thing. Up until recently, there hasn't been a single Republican who has even been willing to talk to black voters as if they're normal people or even deserving of policy.
I would argue that Trump did.
All the Trump.
I would argue that
Trump
did.
is the first. And that's the thing. He's the first. So now that he's done it, there is a rise of people on the right. There's always been a group of people on the right who have been just saying, all you got to do is just treat us with respect and offer us policy the same way you do everybody else. Because black men, when you poll issues, the black community actually polls on the conservative wing of the Democrat Party, where blue dog Democrats like JFK was when he was alive. So
couple of other things.
What we're finally having is Trump is courting these voters actively. The Republican Party under Ronna McDaniel outright refused to court black voters, but now under Michael Whatley, who worked with Kevin Daniels, and under Laura Trump, hopefully they're going to actually be doing this. But a part of it is that Trump is going to, like Donnie said, he's going to have to call out the people who are outright purposely sabotaging any chance at black outreach, because right now, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, Matt Walsh, all these guys, the Daily Wire crew, these guys are not stupid. They have high IQs. I don't think anybody can say that they lack intelligence, which makes me sit there and go, if you're not stupid
let me touch
and you're not ignorant, how are you doing this and not seeing that? How is it not purposeful?
Let me touch this. I think it is, but isn't purposeful. And what I mean by that is, and it's on both sides, the Republicans don't have the institutional knowledge on how to reach out to the black community. and the Democrats only
Agreed.
have one play in their playbook. That's all Democrats have. They have one play, which is pander. That's all they have, so they pander. Republicans, their playbook is empty. They don't know what to even do. So to be forward, Trump didn't do this on purpose. Trump wasn't like, let me go reach out to black people. He just didn't care. And people on the who are more Democrat went, oh, that means he's racist. And he was like, no, I just don't care. He just said, hey, guys, you want jobs? You got jobs. You don't got jobs? Okay. And black people were like, oh, okay. Yeah, that'll work. You just treated us like everybody else. Yeah, that's all he did.
Well,
and so
I think it makes sense that Trump's he's not a conservative. He's not a Republican. He's a nationalist populist. So
he's also
if the idea sounds good, yes, he is a showman. So if the idea sounds good, then he's willing to go with it. And the whole criminal justice reform, he's going.
Let me get go ahead.
Well, okay, so when it comes down to Trump, he's a showman, and he's been in television for a very long time. The fact people are still surprised, I can't believe Trump said that. He's been he's never changed who he was. He's got that appeal. He's got that attraction in which people can follow him. They know who he is. It's just it was amplified because it was a presidential election cycle, 2016, 2020, and now in 2024. But when we look at where voters are going, well, the articles and data and polling are showing a gradual acceptance of voters leaving the party. So I think where voters are going, it is going to be their choice, anything but Democrat. And this is where the Democrats are going to be up against the wall.
Okay.
Okay. So if we're focusing on black voters, if we're talking about black voters specifically, okay, they're looking at, okay, I have not succeeded under Joe Biden. It has gotten more miserable. It's gotten rough. And even in my city of Chicago, the black community has given the city council and the mayor of my city their 2 cents. It gotten so bad that the mayor did something unprecedented. That is, kick people out of the main floor where the council and mayor are at to keep them up there in the nosebleed section on the 3rd floor, so where there cannot be civic engagement. Now, that is a huge reach of power by a mayor telling constituents, oh, I don't want to hear your voices. When you tell that to enough people, they're going to walk away, specifically if black voters are being pandered to or constantly being talked down to by white liberals. If you don't improve, if you don't vote for Biden, things will get rough for you under Trump. Things are already rough for a lot of people. And then there's talk of third parties, Cornel West, the Libertarians, the Green Party, RFK Jr. Well, then there's another option. Or then the final option is, screw it. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm staying home. So where they're going, anywhere but with the Democratic Party. That's the location. Nowhere near the vicinity of the Democratic Party. No.
Technically,
not really. Not to this extent with the Democrats. Look at the warpath towards third parties. I've never seen this many hit pieces towards third parties and independents. Hell, even Tulsi Gabbard is still getting smeared and slandered. Oh yeah, disengagement.
No, I meant the disengagement, the checking out. Because if you look at black voter numbers since the Civil Rights Act, it consistently dropped, and only recently have we had a small spike back up. So they disengage, and at the same time you see mass pushes of immigration at the same time as they're losing voters. Then now over the recent years you have more engagement in the black community. It spiked a bit, and you see now immigration is starting to taper off, because this very same immigration was also about pandering to Hispanics. Well, Hispanics don't identify as Hispanics. They identify as Puerto Rican, Dominican, Cuban, Mexican, Ecuadorian, Guatemalan.
We got to break down that vote.
Black. Yeah, black is a universal term only used in America to look at all people with dark skin.
You brought up the immigration piece. There's also a difference between African and Jamaican immigrants versus Americans who are born here, even that. So, but if you go to census, all the same, right? The census is all the same, but the actual voting patterns are very
drastically different. Yeah, when you delineate across ethnic identifiers and immigration, how long, whether they're first, second, third generation Americans, what you find is drastically different voting patterns, way of thinking 100%. About policy, culture, language. even
Absolutely.
education and even educational scores start to drag. Like the more Americanized people get, the more lazy they get, the fatter they get, the less educated they get. It's like, for a country that was built on the concept of American exceptionalism, it seems like everyone that comes here ends up doing pretty exceptional until they stay here a while and become pretty unexceptionable. It's like we're about to start the mediocre
touch
Olympic
this
games.
piece, Donnie. Touch this piece, Donnie. Go ahead.
So on this, we're answering the question. So
where do we think the black vote's going to actually go? Or the people of color, Hispanics, you decide. Where do you think they're actually going to go?
I actually think it's going to be harder to predict people think. I think that a lot of them are either going to not show up and vote at all, because some people have been asking, who should I vote for a protest vote? When I talk to people in person, and I've actually discussed this online, and someone protest vote a libertarian, because I feel like that's the best ideology there is right now out there. And I got called out for saying that. I said, my thing is, I didn't say, hey, join the party and you haven't changed your mind or anything. If you're on a protest vote, why would I not tell them to go and protest it to the team that's for less government and more of your money, and you having more individual freedoms and all that good going on? But I think what's going to happen is there's going to be either a high number of people not showing up. There's going to be a bigger number for Trump as well. But I also see that maybe RFK and Cornel West will get some of those numbers too. People are not expecting. But like I said earlier, what does it really translate to down the ballot, though? So if they only voted for Trump, has the Republican Party actually gained anything, or was it just Trump getting votes? Because I think if you look down the ballot, it will tell a big story.
I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on this one. I think Republican Party does grow its black base from this. And the reason why I say it is, look, you know as well as I do, they're black people, Hispanic people, they're just as conservative or liberal as white people, right? By percentage they are. But if you ask the average black person, why don't you vote Republican, even though they're conservative, right? I know people in my family who literally own guns, go to church, very religious, conservative, and vote Democrat, right? And if you ask them why, it's, well, Republicans are racist. That's the answer, right? That's the answer. I can't vote Republicans are racist. That's the answer. I don't know about policy, whatever. But I think this goes to the good side of what you were talking about, Julian. I think that's part of it is
in the unions.
Yes, I think that part of it is people are talking and going, maybe I should try this someone else. Maybe I should try somebody else. And the reason why I think many will go to Trump is because of the non-Democrats running, the guy who projects strength the most is Trump. And when you're doing something that is different from you, you want to feel confident and you want to feel strength. And I feel like Trump produces strength more than anything, and they'll go to him for that. I remember back in the day when Gary Johnson was running in 2016, and he didn't really gain any fire until at the end when it was far too late, when he got pissed off at the end, because I think Gary Johnson believed that he was going to, I got Bill Weld with me. I'm going to be treated like all the rest of them. I'm going to get all the same respect. I think he believed that. And when he realized, no, that's not going to happen, he got pissed off. And when angry Gary started hooping and hollering and yelling, people were like, I like this guy. But it was way too late, right? That should have happened a year before. And it happened like 2 months before. It was nowhere near enough time. But I feel like strength matters a lot.
I can say it will. It will, because perception does drive reality. The thing is, though, while Trump can have that right now, if it's only Trump versus Biden, it has it. But what the third parties and independents specifically have to do to get Latino voters or black voters is there has to be more third party independent debates. I know, Larry, you partook in helping moderate that. We need to see that multiplied. More so up until we get to November. And you want to know where strength is going to be seen when you hear Jill Stein speak, when you hear RFK Jr. speak, and then if that also not only guilts Trump for actually, he's going to have to get engaged as well will Biden as well. Sorry for the stutter. I've been working all day, folks. But it's all about how people will perceive you. And if you get enough media attention, this is where, again, where third parties can come into play of getting not only black voters, but all voters. when you look at Biden, people will see a sad old man, all right, a sad old man who doesn't know where he's at, and that's not going to have voter enthusiasm. And especially when it's come down to a protest vote, the choice is simple. If you don't want to vote Democrat or Republican, you have a lot of other viable options in which you can make your voice heard. So,
well, look, if
strength does play a role.
If he those last couple of times that Biden doesn't come out of the basement that much, but when he does, if you notice, he's always yelling. Like he's when they put him up, when they prop him up,
they like, drug him up. No. Yeah, they give him a cocktail.
They go look over there and yell, and he goes, "Rah!" And they go, okay, good, okay, come back.
Yeah, no, but that's a cocktail. They're giving him to get off of his lawn.
They're giving him a cocktail. All right. That's the thing. I don't know what they're doing to make him coherent enough when he was at the State of the Union, but look at how Biden is being handled with kid gloves now. He's not taking questions from the press. He's keeping his conferences very short and simple because they know that his mind will wander off, and whatever they're giving him to be on point for maybe for an hour. So if you have him debate 2 hours, you will see a gradual decline. His cognitive abilities will decrease. Whatever they're
not to mention, he just doesn't. Without that, even with that cocktail, he just doesn't have the quick retort, that mental elasticity that you need to be able to stand up across from a debate. Because remember, it doesn't matter how well you rehearse your talking points. Doesn't matter how smart you are. Once you're standing across from a dude who's going to, in real time, take you off your game. Ted Cruz was arguably one of the best debaters in the world. And yet Donald Trump was able to move him off of his game by simply just hitting him with little jabs and getting him angry and getting him frustrated. And then he could no longer think. What I think you're right that the Republican Party is going to gain some, because I think there's this natural transition from what I've seen. Now, no, when Doni was over here, I'm sure she saw it too. People start looking at the Republican Party. They pick up all the talking points and start reciting those. Then you start to read a little bit, and you start to look a little bit deeper into like the favorite thing for everyone once they come over here as a black voter is Candace Owens, Larry Elder, Thomas Sowell, Walter E. Williams. Right.
Yep.
And as you start to read into Walter E. Williams, Thomas Sowell, stuff like that, and you start to get that takes you more libertarian constitutionalist.
It does.
And then you start to be, and that makes you naturally, all right, I need to start looking more at down ballot races. I need to start looking more at my local government. I need to stop paying attention to social media and start paying more attention to the stuff around me. And then you start to get a more principled level of conversation. The issue that we have is we're so close to the end of the election already that all we have is the summer. I don't know how many people that journey is going to transpire before the end of the election cycle to where it's going to trickle down into races. And in 2020, in 2022, we had a lot of candidates who tried to ride Trump's coattails in office. Yep. This time, unlike 2022, he's actually at the top of the ticket, which means you don't get just the negatives. You do get the positives as well. But if you can't distinguish yourself from the man himself, you don't get those benefits. And that's what we've seen across the country is people are willing to vote for a Trump-like candidate if they can see you as a positive individual for them to vote for. However, if I have an issue with Trump,
they want Trump.
Yeah, but you can't be a Trump sycophant and offer nothing else. That's the issue. If you're a Trump sycophant and all you can do is Trump, Trump, Trump every 30 seconds, well, guess what? I know nothing that you stand for, which makes you more dangerous than the guy that I already got here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the best example of that probably is who's that senator that, oh, Jesus Christ, I've forgotten his name now. I'm going to miss him. The senator who I'm never going to remember. It doesn't matter.
Tim Scott.
He was against Trump and then he was for Trump. Anyway, I've forgotten. Anyway, doesn't matter. I do want to, if I could, walk down a little bit of a road here. I think that there is going to be a shift in both Hispanic and Black into both Republican and Independents more than ever.
Yep.
I think it's going to happen. And the advantage of this is it is going to It's going to exercise a muscle that didn't exist. In other words, a lot of people are going to start swapping parties back and forth. And I hope Kit is correct. I'm with him 100%. I hope that we actually have third parties actually win some electoral votes. If that happens, now they're like, wait a minute. So I can vote for third party and make some impact. That's what I want to see. If that happens, you'll see party loyalty, which already, as you've all mentioned, is going away. It's nowhere near what it used to be. But now they won't just check out. They'll now decide who they want to pick. And I'm okay with that, right? Look, I wish everybody would vote for third parties. But if you would just vote for, say, I don't know, one Green, one Libertarian, one Independent, and your normal Republican Democrat, I would take it, right? I would take just exercising the muscle that I'm not just going to vote blue no matter who, or red, better red than dead. I don't want to be that way, right? I want to at least have people thinking. That's my point of this whole thing.
To be honest, I think RFK is going to get a huge
there'll be
bump.
more Hispanics going towards the Trump than the Black community. Honestly, I think there will be more going that way, especially since when I've gone to these El Gallo shows, it's predominantly Hispanic people, and I see them selling Trump flags and stuff at their events. So I do think a lot will. And some of them are on Twitter, by the way. Some of them have joined Twitter, and they share their stuff with talking about anything Trump still. Yes, they're looking at libertarians locally, but they're looking at Trump. And I do think there will be an influx of that. But I think this might be a reason why they're trying to get other Hispanics to counter that. So it doesn't look like Hispanics are jumping over ship quickly to Trump, so it doesn't look as bad for the Democrats, when they, people like to follow other people's actions, right? When they see a bunch of other people leaving the party, other people will follow suit as well.
Mm-hmm. I've been seeing, I've been hanging out with a couple of my college friends recently, going to a couple of their barbecues, and I'm hearing, again, wide range of people, different backgrounds, but they're all saying the same thing: disappointment in Democrats not voting, or either that some people, aghast, thinking about voting for Donald Trump or third parties. And I've been talking like, hey, Kit, who should we vote for? Who should we vote for? I think another thing that our social responsibility as commentators on this platform, because we are right now theorizing where people can go. And I think the data can confirm us just a little bit that, yes, Trump will see a boon, third parties, independents will see a boon, or either that people will not show up to vote because people are not impressed with the Democrats and Joe Biden. That's the issue. But we have to remember is that as emotional beings and people who are scared, there's a lot of people out there who are scared and don't know what to do. Our social responsibility as commentators on the show is to give data analysis to the best of our ability and to inform our audiences to look at other sources so they too can make their own well-rounded opinion. When I do my morning show live, I've had libertarians and Greens and socialists, anarchists, Democrats. Well, the liberals have been more of the trolls, and yes, even Trump supporters tune in. And the thing is, I tell them, look, make your own opinion. When you vote on election day, that's it. Your vote's out there. Then you are powerless. You got to live the best way you can. But you have to really make this choice of who's going to represent your values. And I think we need to educate people to inform them, here's what's being presented before you, here's who's running for office, and why you should either vote for them or not vote for them. But the thing is, what I'm concerned about is down the road is the ballot access, because we saw how Trump, third parties and independents are being denied ballot access. Now, Trump was able to walk away from that, but notice under this administration, third parties and Donald Trump in particular have been denied, or either that have been prevented from having ballot. And people see that, and people wondering, well, wait, if this happened under Trump, people would be screaming to the moon if he was doing this. But this is happening under a Democratic administration, which should be sticking the hairs on the back of your neck all the way up. The fact that this is presented by the media as nonchalant and
you have
completely calm. And third parties, independents, and Trumpers should be worried about this, as should Democrat voters.
Yeah. You really have hit a very important piece on that, man. No, if you go back a couple years, nobody was talking about ballot access. Nobody even knew what ballot access was. Nobody even was talking about that contingent election. This year has been so great. I think Republicans going to gain a bit, but I think overall we all gain. This is going to be a good year. This is going to be good for the future. Maybe not this year, because I think a lot of people, libertarians, are like, wait a minute, Larry, RFK Jr. is going to take a lot of our votes. It's probably true. I think that's probably accurate. However, RFK Jr. is going to run this year, do whatever he does. And then libertarians and greens are still here. And we're going to be absorbing a lot of that. And third parties will be able to pick up a whole lot more, I think, from it. Kevin, you're totally right. They're going to be fighting more for ballot access, talking about it more, all those things. Yes.
I think one of the problems that third parties have is that now the Libertarian Party actually doesn't have this, because they're actually very widely known, big name libertarians that they could run as a presidential candidate when it comes to high level, electoral politics. They actually have big names that they can draw from, but a lot of these smaller, Green Party, Constitutionalist Party, or Constitutional Party, stuff like that, they don't have the big names to be able to drive from. And Jill Stein and like Bill Weldon, a lot of those guys, their names have faded to history. You can only run so many times before people just stop paying attention. They just don't care because you're not seen as a winner, and it just, the media doesn't give you the notoriety that they did in the beginning.
I think your point's valid. I think that's why the Greens actually first wanted to have Cornel West and not Jill Stein initially. I thought initially I think Cornel West is something new.
The Libertarians have messed up by not having like Comic Dave Smith or one of your, like, Comic Dave Smith is great on everything liberty minded.
He's popular.
He has very consistent arguments. He has a very popular, he's well known. Like my thing is, we live in the age of social media. As much as I would love that everybody read policy and research candidates, unfortunately, magnanimous personalities are what rule, and your ability to drive media towards you, drive eyeballs, and your ability to, when I say stand up and make a convincing argument, it's less convincing the person that you're right and beating them over the head with data and facts. It's more convincing the person that you're authentic and you believe what you're saying. And if you believe it, I can believe that you believe it.
Kit's ready to jump out of his skin. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So with Comic Dave's, Dave Smith. Look, I thought his interview with RFK Jr. was phenomenal. But one thing where I'm seeing people say, like, he should have ran libertarian, he should have ran. I think it's unfair to put that on him. Just like the same thing when they did to Jesse Ventura in the Green Party way back in 2020. It's like Jesse said, "Hey, I'm not running. I'm not going to do it." I think it's you are right that ego and pride and whoever has the best persona will win the day. But it's also wrong for masses of people to put their projections on one person who's saying, "Look, I don't want the crown." And look, it's easy to say like, "Oh, then you should be the most worthy because you don't want the crown." No, some people say, "I don't want the crown. Don't put that on me. Don't give me the crown. Don't do that." It's not Julius Caesar saying to Mark Antony, "Don't give me the crown, Mark Antony. Don't do that." It's like, no, don't give that to me, because people do have their limitations. People do have what they want to do, and the realm of politics, same thing. Two people saying like Tucker Carlson should be Trump's VP. Tucker Carlson has more power on his platform alone than the vice president of the United States, because he's able to reach out to millions of people, millions upon millions of people, shake the foundations of the media landscape, and who will listen. But the thing is, that also impacts policy and politics in Washington, D.C. So who is more powerful? The person with the platform who's able to give reasonable conversations and policies and ideas that can engage everyone across the spectrum, or some politician in the neoliberal two-party system? I'm going to go with the other option, because DC is the cesspool.
So look, I think Roger will be mad at me.
I don't think the Libertarian Party is as popular as you may think, because when I ask people about Georgia, they don't know who calls the runoff. And I say, Chase Oliver, he calls it runoff in Georgia. People are like, "What's a libertarian?" People still don't know. A lot of people don't know what a libertarian is. I think maybe some people just, check mark libertarian on the ballot because it wasn't a D or R. And so for me, I don't think enough people know. I think it's up to the people in our states to start engaging. So if you have our counties, whatever our counties and our little counties doing, right? If you have 20,000 people, can we afford sending mailers? Just like I said, 7 times. So touching people. Having a lot of times too, if it's a poor area, I'm like, "Hey, come on over. You got pizza, bring your family, bring your kids. They're going to come and listen about some things. Have some raffles, start having a little tests, educating people." But the thing is, it's like, those people in your community, in your county, don't know what libertarian is, I got to do some more work. I just moved to my county. We reached out to Louisiana, LP Louisiana. There's 51 libertarians here that I need to talk to and get, activated if they're still actually libertarians.
Dr. Charles Pillay. Dr. Charles Pillay. He's from Louisiana. He is. Absolutely.
So I don't think enough people know who libertarians are still.
Roger's going to be mad at me if I don't read these. So I got to read these or Roger's going to be mad at
me. Or else you
these.
better.
I got to. Okay. He says, Larry, 5-part message here. Including blacks in POC group has proven to be a disaster for us. It has led to nothing but blacks getting the short straw within the POC group. We are the only non-white group that says POC. No one else does. We drop POC. Instead, we stand on blackness. Let it be FBI means Free Black Men of America, ADOS, which is American Descendants of Slaves, or Freedmen. Larry, New York Progressive Action Network, NY PAN hosted a 2-hour Zoom with AOC, Bowman, and Nina. APAC funding.
I saw that. I saw that video, Roger. I'm talking about it tomorrow.
So let me touch the first part before I keep going. I got a couple more I got to go. But the first part he brought up, I agree. I say I will often use broad terms on purpose so that I can draw people in. But as I actually mentioned already, I do see a difference between people of color and black Americans and also immigrants. I do see a difference between the three of them. I do. I agree with Roger on this. He says primary challenge against them, and they're in panic mode. NY PAN, mostly 50-year-olds living upstate in Long Island, has no youth energy and still supports progressive Democrats. The under 50-year-olds in New York City are leaving Democrats. I think he's right, and APAC still is powerful. It's true. APAC is still powerful. The squad abandoned us. Now they come back for help. That's true. The squad, again, I try to give AOC the benefit of the doubt. I did. I didn't vote for her. I'm not a huge fan. However, I want to give her credit. When she went and got that seat the first time, she busted her rump. Her work ethic was number one. That seat was not given to her. She worked to get that seat. She knocked on my door, right? I mean, she's my congressperson. She knocked on my door. I was like, you know what? Well done. Do you? And I didn't attack her. I kept my mouth shut. And the worst part is, even though I may not agree with all of her policies, I still expected her to fight for the people who voted for her. And she sold out her own people, right? If I don't want Medicare for all, and I don't want Medicare for all, but if someone votes for someone who says they're going to give Medicare for all, you should fight for Medicare for all, even though I disagree with it, because people voted for it. And they voted for it. And she did not do that. So I think he's totally correct. He goes on to say, so bad they had to go outside New York City to Long Island upstate to get help from boomers and Gen Xers. Also, yes, old civil rights leaders say that this is last one, left. They don't recognize it. Why? Because they're old. The young always are more radical than the old, and they transform the world they wish to live in it, to welcome into it. All right, so I got all of them down. Roger, don't be mad at me. He said like 5 in a row, so I did it. Good. Guys, go ahead, please. You can touch what Roger said if you like. Please.
No, well, Roger Meadows has been someone who just speaks truth to power, who's the one who's convinced us about citizen ballot initiatives, worker co-ops, and so much more, and about being civically engaged in local and state elections. And that's what's going to need to happen. And I do hope that voters, again, the audacity of hope, that voters will be engaged in this political system after November. It's more than just who's president. It's what we're going to do afterwards. And I do hope that third parties will capitalize on the war that the media and the Democrats are doing towards them, so they can bring in voters, so they can have active voter engagement for local elections, for the next coming midterm election cycle, or any other elections that are coming up, because now's the time to start building infrastructure.
100%.
I think the Greens and Libertarians dropped the ball in 2016. Yep. They could have done a lot more, and this is their rare opportunity where they can build on this and expand further if they choose to. But again, the other option, citizen ballot initiatives. And if you live in a citizen ballot initiative state, fight to maintain it. And if you don't, make your state into a citizen ballot initiative
So
state.
let me, before I go on, I have a bunch more stuff I want to grab. I got a bunch more comments I have to grab. Before I do that, I want to do two things. One, I'm going to remind people, click the button that is like. Do that. Click the like button. If you haven't clicked it, please click that like button. If you're watching on Twitter or X, please repost it or retweet this. It does matter. Thank you all for the super chats. I do appreciate them all. If you want to get your stuff to the front, you can. You can also click join if you want to. Become a YouTube member. It's $49 per month. knock it out, and you are now a member. That's also something cool you can do if you want to support the channel. But no matter what, follow these 3 people if you would. In fact, I'd like each of you to tell us what you're doing before we head back to the chat. Kit, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start off. So Heartlands Media, we're live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Odyssey, and Kick. We have a show on Can TV as well. So we're on television. We finally made it, Ma. And we are also now saving up every red cent. We're asking for support via Patreon. We are working on doing a GoFundMe to cover the DNC convention. We do have press passes, and I am building together a team. I already got my colleague Daniel and another person set up so that we can cover the DNC convention at the McCormick Place and at the United Center between August 19th through the 22nd. And if you want to help out Heartlands Media, we do need the help. We are going to be interviewing the activists and organizers who are protesting the Democrats, as well as hopefully potentially even covering the events inside both locations if we can. But that's one of our major projects that we are setting up for and planning to do. And Larry, I'll keep you in the loop about what's going on. If you come to Chicago, let me know. Maybe we could hook up. Maybe we could do some kind of collaboration work, whatever. But Chicago is going to be a hotbed, folks. If you want to talk about what's going to drive reality, what's going to happen in Chicago?
It's going to be Chi-Town, absolutely. Doni, tell us what you are doing, please.
Jeez. Besides going on walks on the beach, I'm researching heavily all the time so I can be able to educate the people around me. I'm on newspaper.com, by the way. You guys need to be looking at these newspaper clips from back in the Gap because there's some tea there. Also, as you guys may know too, I've been to like 3 capitals in the past year: Oklahoma, Kentucky, and Texas as capital. I've been to multiple states doing different events, speaking in front of crowds of people. I've also been to it's actually a coalition thing where, the conservatives against the death penalty. I've done that as well. How y'all can help me so I can keep doing these things and actually, sending mailers out to people, because those things are not cheap, but it's more doable in like a little smaller county area that I'm in now. To do that, if you can go to www.liberties.com so I can continue to do these things, because me and Larry's had this conversation before. I'm one of those kind of activists who do a lot of things for free all the time. And I need, it doesn't help sometimes if it's like just not going that way. But the last thing is if you go to my Twitter account and you do follow me, if you're really soft and you get offended pretty easily, it may not be the place for you. But I would love for you to come and try it out, because apparently I know how to get under people's skin for some reason. It's not intentional, but I do. I've had people do whole YouTube channels talking crap about me. Because they said,
you made it.
I know, and I love it. Remember Simon Smollett? I think Julie remembers Simon Smollett. This beautiful Black girl attacked him, and I was just telling him, "Yo, you're retweeting a white supremacist girl. You sure you want to do that?" So, if you're not easily offended, come on over.
There we go. Julian, tell us what you're doing.
Right now, I do most of my work on Twitter. I've been writing a plan for Black outreach for the Republican Party, and it's not just Black outreach; it's outreach and community engagement focused on basically taking the best of what Democrats have been successful at and combining it with basic principles of marketing and sales, which is behavioral psychology, and applying it specifically to Republican politics. Most of what I do is on Twitter, trying to decipher between the gap in understanding between cultures, Black, white, Hispanic, Republican, Democrat policy. But I will be bringing my podcast has been on hiatus for the past few years. I needed a break after running for office and didn't want to do what everybody else does. I wanted to cancel my podcast during the election so that it would be apparent that I was not a grifter trying to promote my podcast.
I'm still trying to grift. It doesn't work. I'm still trying to grift. It doesn't work. So yes.
But hey, no, man, you're doing great work, man. For me, I was like, but I'm going to be bringing back my podcast. It's going to be live streamed to X and to YouTube. So I'll be going live.
Set up on Rumble too, my friend. Set up on Rumble as well.
Oh yes, I am going to be doing so. I'll be doing most likely an hour on X. I'll be doing about 2 hours on X and Rumble and about an hour on YouTube. And we'll switch to Rumble that way.
Very good.
You guys can hear me swear and really, really be an asshole.
There we go. I love it. Guys, please follow these people if you would. I do appreciate all of this. I now want to grab some more super chats. They keep coming in. I appreciate it. If I could, Juan for Freedom says, in New York, if you really want your vote, no matter what, if you really want your vote to count, then vote third party. Right now, we need to end the one-party rule in New York in order to save her. Yes, that's true in New York and in many states. I would argue that's similar in Illinois also, one-party rule. Mm-hmm. I think you go the opposite. You go like Oklahoma, it's Republican one-party rule. I think one-party rule is a problem no matter what. I completely agree. There should be some fear that they can lose power, right? Otherwise, why would they do anything? I think he's completely right. Thank you for the $5. It's true. I mean, it's one-party rule where you are too, Kit, right?
In Illinois and Chicago, yeah. Well, the thing is, it's designed that way. So if you're running for city election, though, because the machine does pick, yes, you're Republican, wink, but you put that Democrat name right in front. There, you're part of the machine. That's how it is. It's very insidious. So yes, one party rule. Just listen to the machine, do whatever you want. But yeah, it's how it is. Don't worry. There's gonna be another example of some corrupt politician in Chicago being exposed again. Very soon.
Gotta grab two in a row here if I could. This is Lucha Libertarian. Thank you for 199. How many join the armed forces, Larry? Hispanics. And he moves to the next one and says, Larry, how many Hispanics understand the border is invasion? We swear to the Constitution in military structure, just like natives in World War II. Correct. What I think he's saying is, I think I'll use the example of the Bronx that I have here in New York. I think there are so many people coming into New York City, migrants, almost 200,000 now, that even the Bronx has become anti-migrant. And that has not been a thing. If you know the Bronx has been very open to take on migrants. There's no tomorrow, very open. But wow, they really have started to become anti-migrant because we just have so many of them. And worst, there's no plan. Now, people know me. I'm not anti-migrant at all. I am anti-take migrants with no plan. That I am.
There's never a plan here in Chicago. I'll never forget this. In 2018, when we were asking a lot of these, amnesty individuals, these protest groups, myself and Daniel Lupker, we asked these activists and organizers, like, "Hey, is there a plan to really take care of all of these people?" This was as polite as it could be, because we did cover how the Gary Chicago International Airport was taking out non-violent offenders out of the country, be it from Illinois, Minnesota, all this, but it was in Indiana where it was at. But we did ask, like, hey, where is there a plan? Do you think the city of Chicago has a plan? And there are people who told us, talking down, obviously.
Of course,
no, there is a plan. Trust the politicians. We're in communication with them 24/7. Or the other one is, you two racist white men, you don't know what you're talking about.
Of course.
You don't know what you're talking about. You guys are racist. You're bigoted. And we're like, oh, yes, is there a plan? And it turns out, actions speak loud, there was no plan. Look at the sanitation at a lot of these migrant shelters here in Chicago. It is horrific. It is deplorable. And you got outbreaks of measles happening? No.
Absolutely. Yes. Andrea says, I want to see debates. She's on your side, Kit. With all the qualified candidates, all third parties should be on stage.
And
if they made a rule, if they made a rule, and I think it's a simple rule, right? If you are on enough ballots to where you can mathematically win, you can be in the debate stage. I think that's a simple rule, right? If you're on enough ballots that you can mathematically win, why aren't you in the debate stage? Doesn't that seem kind of simple? Am I wrong there?
Yeah. That's makes reasonable sense to me. So but the thing is, let's also look how data and polling is collected here in this country, because it can be skewed in a way that makes a viable
That's
candidate.
why I don't do the polling and data. You're right, Kit. That's why I say if you're on the ballot, you're good.
Because look what happened to Tulsi Gabbard for those debates. She would have been a lot more debates if the Democrats actually, one, didn't weigh in, and two, because remember, there's a lot of cited and trusted sources of polling that had her qualify, but then this institution isn't legitimate. It's got to go, because that could happen to third parties and independents. Yeah,
absolutely. Carl says, hello, Larry. Do you think there will be a draft if the U.S. backs Israel in a potential war against Iran? Wow, that came out of nowhere. I do not think America will ever institute a draft ever. I do not think that. I think those days are long gone. I don't sit at all. Oh, I'm jealous, Julian. I don't know what come kiss me. Oh, nice. So yes, I do not think we will do the draft at all. I don't know. Kit, am I wrong on this? Tell me if I am.
Really depends on how far we got our bloodthirsty warmongering politicians who collect that big check from the military-industrial complex. Because again, all these people in Congress, all what they care about is expanding their portfolios, especially with the MIC as well as big oil. We're ruled over by sociopaths. Okay, when you have Lindsey Graham
Not
saying,
wrong.
the best money we ever spent killing Russians, and you have people in the media and in Washington, D.C. promoting war, they could do it. They're not going to find the front line. Could there be a draft instituted? I think there'll be a massive pushback because then people are going to be rather concerned because, gee, shouldn't our politicians be more concerned about diplomacy than full-on total war? We got this horrific crisis in Ukraine where they're lowering the drafting age now to age 25. They'll lower it down even further because, again, look how many people are dying. When Trump is the most reasonable person in the room compared to Nikki Haley, I want people to stop dying. That is by far a sign that, yes, stop this insanity. Then, of course, you have this ridiculous conflict in Gaza where you have so many men, women, and children being blown up and destroyed. You have this crisis in Yemen, and then there's sable rattling in Taiwan, and then possibly instigating something with North Korea. I hope the powder keg doesn't blow up, and I hope a draft isn't instituted. Do I see it happening? No, but our politicians will be more than happy to push it until, oh, hey, we got to draft all you people into the army because we screwed up.
I don't know. Donnie, are they going to start drafting us? What you think?
I think there actually could be a possibility they would. I wouldn't put it past them to do a draft. You know how many commercials for the military I've seen? I've seen so many different on Reddit over and over again, different advertisements for joining the military. Oh, this is great. You're not too old to join the military. I'm literally like reading all these different ads. I'm seeing them all on Facebook.
Wow.
So they're really making a push as if I put a screenshot on Twitter of an ad I kept seeing on Reddit, one of them. It was talking about you're not too old, and it barely got any traction. That one post. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't put it past them to try to force it. I think the problem will be it'd be harder because we're on social media, and a lot of people have different voices. Individuals can have a voice. Back in the day, we had the newspapers and whatnot, but do we really know, besides they called into a show, what the population really thought about war? I'm seeing a lot of people in our country saying they're against war, and they don't want to send money to other countries. Another thing with the black voters, they're tired of y'all not giving them the reparations, right? But y'all sending money over to every other country. That's one reason why my sister said she's going to be voting for Trump, because they're sending my money, Biden's sending my money all over the seas, everywhere else, besides not taking care of here at home in our country where our people need help.
Every time someone says reparations and someone says, but we give money to Ukraine or we give money to Israel, we give money to wherever, that's their argument. Every single time. Absolutely. Julian, they're going to bring the draft back or not?
Shit. Part of me, it depends. If we're just getting in a proxy war,
no. You guys are
I don't think
yes.
No. I think the likely answer is no. Okay. And that's just because even though we have a serious problem recruiting, not I believe to my last recollection, the only force which has met its recruitment numbers in the past 5 years has been the Marine Corps, and that's because as Marines we know people join the Marines to be Marines. Everyone else is joining the military.
Yes.
So, like the Marines, the recruiters, my buddy who is a recruiter served with me, said it's the weirdest dynamic where he'll have somebody with a high GT score who only wants to be a grunt. He's like, dude, I'm trying to push them towards other fields, and they just want to be a grunt.
They want to be a badass.
When people think of Marines, they think of grunts, they think of artillery, they think of recon. He's like, they don't even know that we have technical fields. And I'm like, yeah. But no, when it comes to on a more serious note, when it comes to a draft, you have two things driving the lack of recruitment. You have the push towards all the quote unquote woke shit, the trans stuff, the acceptance, the DEI, and as a military member, we're all three veterans, we had issues with this. I can't remember if Donnie served or not, but I know we all have issues with the pushing of overtly politically correct shit. Oh, thank you, thank you, Donnie. But we have a serious issue with the pushing of overtly politically correct shit in the military, because it distracts from our mission at hand. We would much rather be training and going to the field and doing what it takes to be successful military members, so sure that we have a good level of Michelin contract. No, it does, because when guys are coming home from the military, and this is what I'm hearing, is there's a lot of people coming home from the military who are telling everybody how messed up it is. And guess what? All the people that we tell, it's like in sales and marketing, you may tell up to 2 people when you have a good experience, but you'll tell 10 if you have a bad experience. Well, we haven't heard much good coming out of 20 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then not being able to get care when you get back. And then every time the federal government's going to have a shutdown, the gun is to our heads. It's, oh, well, you hate the veterans. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. Why is my head on the chopping block right now? Y'all have issues with each other. You owe me. Why is my head on the chopping block?
I want to. So what is an important piece.
And the other thing is, all right. So then the other thing is the endless wars.
I want to go to why we need to draft if we have robotics and drones, and I got to tell you, that is going to be something, right? That is going to be an issue for the future.
Yeah, I'd rather not be. Maybe I'm the only person who paid attention to Terminator 1 and 2, okay? But, I don't know. I just don't want that to happen, okay?
I'm right there with you.
Maybe I was the only one paying attention in that movie. The same thing as Idiocracy 2. But, okay,
well,
I was the only one.
Robotics, drones, was it Terminator, The Matrix?
I am going to have
my
to.
My father served in the Air Force, and he told us not to join the military. All 5 of us. I'm the oldest. I was born in 1987. He told us, as children, when we're young, he sat down like, "Do not join the military. You guys find something else." He didn't say, "Oh, I'm demanding you not to join it." He said, "Don't join it." And I mean, and I did grow up in an authoritarian household, so that also led me down the path I've gone as well. But he told us not to join the military, and a lot of the people in my generation, my grandfather did, my uncle did, but like us, we didn't join the military. And that plays off what Julian was saying, where people have come back and said how terrible things were and what's really going on. That people are like, I don't really want to. And then real quick, I want to push back on y'all saying, oh, it might not be a draft. I never thought the cops would come to churches and lock people up for going to church during COVID. I didn't see people being locked up for going to work. I never see none of that stuff necessarily happen because they told us that they were on our side, and I watched them do it. So I'm not putting it past the government on anything, especially after what happened during COVID, and people literally getting a shot because they were afraid that they're going to lose their job and not be able to feed their family. So I would not put it past any of these people because look what they've done already.
Point taken. I cannot argue. Point taken.
I think it depends on whether or not there's going to be a draft on what type of warfare we're fighting and against what enemy. If we're fighting against Russia, oh my God, it's going to be it's going to be electronic warfare, disinformation, EMPs. You're going to see missiles in old school military tactics, ground and pound.
Oh God!
If we're in Iraq, it's going to be counterinsurgency tactics. Or I'm sorry, Iran or the Middle East is going to be counterinsurgency tactics. And we're going to be carpet bombing and drone striking the shit out of them. If you're talking China and Southeast
I don't want to walk down this road anymore. No, Julian, no.
Yeah. This is a bad idea all around because I could see frontline infantry then being brought up and used. It's no matter what scenario it is. It's going to happen. Then there's mushroom clouds in the sky. It's the worst mistake that humanity could ever do, and will go into extinction.
Oh, it's horrible.
And not to mention, if it does happen, if there are survivors of humanity, we will never get to this level of technology ever again, and we will be a shell of our species. And I dread to even think about what we would look like. I don't want to even think about
that. Nice, warm, fuzzy note that you guys just brought us on. Why don't we try to wrap this up? Wow, this ended up well. All I'm going to say is Guys, thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your evening. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please remember, click that like button if you haven't. Follow these amazing people who gave us all this insanely cool stuff we talked about. If you could, make sure you retweet this. And one more thing I'll ask all of you. Once this is over, I would like those of you who are watching to come back to whatever you're watching on. You're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, and leave a comment afterwards. So once it's over, come back, leave a comment. It's very popular for the Al Gore rhythms. Yes, absolutely. And I will be on again tomorrow at 1 p.m. On my radio show, WYSL, 1 p.m. live. Also on again tomorrow evening with another interview at 7 p.m. I will see you all very soon.